In this demo, we're going to use vFunction alongside GitHub Copilot to modernize our monolithic application to cloud native. We're going to start after the dynamic and static analysis and look at vFunction's suggested domain design, and then the modernization to-dos to correct technical debt and make the application more modular. These to-dos will be solved by GitHub Copilot under prompts generated from vFunction. We'll then extract the services from the monolith. So this is vFunction, and we're starting after the dynamic and static analysis has run, and vFunction suggesting to me what my domain design is, or my logical separation of my business logic in our simple order management system here. The circles or spheres represent those domains. So we've got domains like fulfillment, order, payment, shipping, domains that I would expect, and domains that I would probably draw manually on the whiteboard if I needed to. The lines between the domains represent calls, so method to method calls between them. The size of the domain represents the number of software components or classes needed to deliver it. Let's just look at fulfillment here. That's this one here. Fulfillment has 2 entry points or boundaries or capabilities. We can explore them further and see what those capabilities do in both a call tree and component-based view. Then vFunction's underlaid the software class requirements needed to deliver this capability during runtime and the static dependencies to support them, and the resources and constraints it runs under. So things like database transactions, network messaging, stored procedures are all identified there. The color coding on my screen relates to the exclusivity or the uniqueness or the physical separation at the code level. Green being highly exclusive and unique, red being very low exclusivity. So we've got some overlap there, and this aligns to bounded context in domain design theory. This suggested architecture can be changed by me as a software architect if I need to. I can combine domains together. I can separate them out, I can create entry points, or I can take vFunction's suggested architecture if I want to. vFunction then gives me a set of to-do tasks or modernization plan, a set of activities to correct the technical debt, the entanglement, the complexity, the exclusivity, the compatibility issues of this application. What I'm going to do is going to focus on one specific to-do, but you can see we have to-dos here like high debt classes, which are entangled and complex, unnecessary business logic or dead code that potentially we can remove, and resource exclusivity where we've got overlapping constraints around database access in this example. I'm going to focus on one to do here. So we've got a service dependency removal to do. It's suggesting we remove a service to service dependency or call to increase its modularity and simplify the application. Now vFunction can create for me a Gen AI prompt, or I can interact directly in my IDE, in my code assistant, directly with vFunction. Just to point out that the problem we're solving here is this dependency between these two domains. So we have a service to service call or a domain call, a method call between fulfillment and order that is suggesting we correct. So let's jump into the IDE and see how we utilize that to solve this problem. So we're now in VS Code, my IDE, so I'm in a developer persona, and I have the Copilot plugin to VS Code here in front of us. Now it's integrated directly with vFunction via the MCP capability, so it gives us a number of tools to interact with vFunction. So let's just have a look at those tools. What are my vFunction tools? And it should go away and give us a list of the capabilities that vFunction exposes. So that's pretty much everything for understanding those to-dos, correcting those to-dos, the understanding the logical software architecture, the semantic structure there, and also the co-copy capability to extract out the services. So let's just look at the to-dos. So list all my vFunction to-dos. So as before, it's going to go and query vFunction. It's going to give us those to-dos, probably exactly the same to-dos that we were just looking at there in the vFunction UI. So all the remediation tasks, everything from the high debt classes, the dead code, and more importantly, those cross-domain service calls that we were looking at. So I'd maybe ask for some information on the prompt. Tell me more about fixing the cross-domain service calls. So again, it's going to get those instructions, the remediation requirements from vFunction to solve those there. as well. Right, so we can go ahead and fix that. So fix the cross domain service. Cool. And again, obviously gets all of the details we need and starts correcting those to-dos for us. So I'm now back in vFunction after we've solved those to-dos, and vFunction's reprofiled and reanalyzed the application with the runtime and static analysis dependency data. And this is what our application, our monolith, now looks like. Our domains are now logically separated. We've cleaned up unnecessary service calls. We've increased the exclusivity. Just to point out, vFunction has marked any of the to-dos that we've corrected now as done. So the problem has gone away for those as well, and identified any new to-dos if there were any. So I'm going to go ahead and extract our order. So order is a capability of our application. It has three capabilities. It has create multiple orders, create a single order, and fetch an order. So to extract the service from vFunction or convert the domain into a separate running service, I can either use the command line tool, code copy provided by vFunction, or I can do this directly using my code assistant, so Copilot here for us. So I'm back in my IDE with the Copilot plugin, and I'm going to go ahead and ask it to extract out the order controller domain into a separate running service for me. So obviously it needs to get information about the order controller, so it's getting the domains there. In my case also checking, I guess, the right versions of Java for me. So it downloads the spec file, so that's the technical definition of how to build this new service. It's got the classes, the libraries, my Spring configuration in that config for me. It's downloading, I think, the spec file as well for the common library as well. So then it's going to run the code copy utility for both the common library and our order controller service there. So as you can see, it's actually gone ahead and done all that for us. It's actually downloaded and created those new software projects. Really, that's just parsing the original source code repository and extracting out what we need, creating those new software projects and configuring them all out for us. So yeah, we can go ahead and test it now. So we're running this, and I'm just using an API test tool here to test the three sets of capabilities for order. So let's try them out. So can we create an order as an API test? Yes, we can. Can we create multiple orders? Yes, we can. And can we get an order? So quite straightforward, obviously using vFunction, solving the architectural issues there, and then extracting out a domain and converting it really into a separately runnable service outside or alongside of the monolith. If we go back into vFunction, I just wanted to show you a more comprehensive application here. So this is a much larger application than we were playing with earlier. So 11,000 software classes, a couple of million lines of code here, but still really clear and easy to understand following the domain-driven design principles here around the complexity and entanglement. I have a similar number of domains and capabilities in this application, obviously much bigger domains, obviously a lot more entanglement to unravel, but the same process applies. So quite straightforward to use vFunction to refactor, re-architect my application.